Trump's ballroom is still in the news. Yeah, and get this, Trump just raised the estimated cost of his new ballroom by $100 million to a total of $300 million. Americans are like, yeah, it's nice to know that even the president can get ripped off on renovations. It's like, yeah, told me this was going to cost $5,000. I don't know. You don't need a front door, I guess.
The propaganda apparatus of the Democrat Party knows no bounds. It is everywhere. Remember their boy Goebbels? He famously said, a lie told once remains a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And now Led Zeppelin. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Hey, it's Friday in America. What time is it where you are? You know this guy, Stephen A. Smith? Do you know this guy? He's on ESPN, I guess. Kind of schmuck, schnook, fraud, a menace, a Democrat, obviously. Not very well informed. He's spun up about the FBI. The FBI arresting at least one player in the NBA and one coach in the NBA, the National Basketball Association, on the Terry Rozier. You've seen this Terry Rozier video, perhaps, of Rozier handing the ball off again and again, playing the Cavs, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he's passing the ball off to the opposing team time and time and time again, and trying to shoot three-pointers from way out and missing again and again and again. And apparently the mobsters in New York are on the horn with somebody in the stadium giving him hand signals, high signs to, hey, drop the ball, pass it, make sure that you guys lose because we're throwing the game here. And you got to give credit to the organized crime people in New York, the mafia. They really were dug in. They had it pretty good. Chauncey Billups. It's like Phillips, but it's Billups. And he's a head coach and a former player as well. Arrested as part of FBI sports gambling probe. They love a good probe. And isn't that amazing? The defendants arraigned in court. Pretty crazy. Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier were arrested Thursday as part of an FBI sports gambling probe, the agency announced in a news conference. And in addition to Billups and Rozier, former Cleveland Cavaliers player and assistant coach Damon Jones was also arrested. Thursday's arrests are linked to two separate cases, one involving sports gambling, the other involving an illegal poker ring. I wonder if Governor Pritzker plays in the illegal poker ring. Rozier was named in the sports gambling indictment, Billups in the poker operation, which involves several organized crime families. I think it's nice that they have family values on the mafia side of the fence. That makes it better. Jones is one of three defendants named in both cases. Isn't that amazing? FBI Director Kash Patel and the Department of Justice held a press conference on Thursday morning to provide details on the investigation. Rozier and Billups appeared in court Thursday afternoon, and both will be released from custody. Of course they will. Don't be ridiculous. But this guy, Stephen A. Smith, the ESPN guy, he's got quite an ego. He thinks that he is politically relevant, and all Democrats have crazy ego issues and usually gender issues. But Stephen A. Smith, you'll never guess, it's all Trump's fault. Trump somehow, it has to do with left-wingers protesting, which usually means rioting and looting and firebombing and attacking the Jews and attacking the police. Then they say, oh, it's a protest. That's what Democrats say. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. And here's the Stephen A. Smith schmuck.
We know what world that I live in terms of politics. How many times,
idiot world,
for one incident after another, have I said,
yeah,
Trump is coming.
Trump is coming.
He's coming.
You're mental.
Big night for the NBA. Wembanyama put on a show.
Yeah,
that has now been smeared because we're talking about this story.
Wembanyama put on a show.
Remember, Trump has a long, long history connected to the world of sports because he had those casinos. Where do you think folks were coming half the time?
Yeah, sports
I'm not
casinos.
talking about individuals. Right. I'm talking about the culture.
When
people want to go to a casino, when people want to gamble, when people want to party, or whatever the case may be. This was his kind of connection to that.
What? As completely irrelevant, disjointed, disconnected, meaningless, confused, and typical of the left-wing genius Stephen A. Smith.
Don't be surprised if the WNBA is next on his list. Because when you've got all of these protests that have been going out there and people that have been protesting against him and what have you, this man is coming. He's coming. And I've been saying it for a long time. Yeah. And to me, this is the latest nugget of evidence.
You're an idiot. God, what an idiot. I got to tell you, what an idiot. What are you talking about? First of all, one of the things that was revealed by the FBI director in the press conference yesterday, which Stephen A. Unintelligent Smith didn't watch yesterday, otherwise he might know things that he obviously does not know. He revealed that the investigation had been going on for years, which means that it goes back to the Biden FBI and Biden Justice Department, who were racist and also crooked as hell and all that. And, I'm sorry, what is Trump owned casinos, therefore gambling. There was gambling in casinos. So therefore, when Democrats are gambling on basketball games, somehow it has something to do with Trump. Major Trump derangement syndrome. I'm sure he's very upset about the ballroom, too, and he's got BDS as well.
Don't be surprised if the
don't be surprised. I would be surprised if the WNBA, because it'd be the FBI would be the only people in the country paying attention to the WNBA.
Don't be surprised.
You did it again. We got that. That's Michael's favorite soundbite today. Don't be surprised, Stephen A. Smith, if the WNBA is next, because they all must be victims. But here's the great thing, because Brian sent me today. My friend Brian sent me today. It's the headline from the Babylon Bee, the wonderful people at the Babylon Bee who are actually funny. And the headline is, WNBA players assure FBI they weren't missing layups to throw games. They just suck at basketball. See, that's pretty good. It's Babylon Bee. And I think that's the truth when it comes to the WNBA. But they got this guy, Terry Rozier. Have you seen the Terry Rozier guy? The video montage, the compilation of them playing the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he keeps handing the ball over to the Cavs, and he keeps missing every shot at the hoop, and then he walks off when he apparently gets a signal from a member of the Gambino family in the crowd or something. But Stephen A. Smith, he's got it all figured out.
I'm watching a press conference with the director of the FBI.
But not hearing it.
Tell me when we've seen that. We've seen accusations before. We've seen
it a lot.
Athletes get in trouble with the law before. You don't see the director of the FBI having a press conference. It's not coincidental. It's not an accident. It's a statement. And it's a warning that more is coming.
Is a delusional mental dwarf. Can you say mental dwarf, or do you have to say little person, mental little person? That's just amazing. What a dimwit this guy is. And they pay him. Who owns ESPN? That's one of the big corps? Is that Disney and the ABC people? Right? That's what I thought. So they pay him millions of dollars to be an idiot, to be ignorant. I prefer to say ignorant. And he has no idea what's going on. And he claimed that he watched the press conference. Oh, and they've never had one of those before. You guys are still furious that James Comey held a press conference about Hillary Clinton all those years ago, where he announced that he's not charging her because he's just a Democrat. And she had all the classified data on her servers that were kept in a closet in Colorado and were accessible to Russia and China and Iran and everybody else. And they had been hacked all over the place. And they also Hillary Clinton ordered staffers to smash their cell phones and their smart devices with hammers to destroy the hard drives in them and all that good stuff. But he doesn't remember anything, like all Democrats. He has no memory of anything that happened before 5 minutes ago. And then he comes out and he's given a national platform by Disney and paid millions of dollars. And he's ESPN, he's talking sports. And by the way, idiot, the FBI does have press conferences when they're talking about the Gambino family, the Lucchese family, the Bonanno family, the four, I guess there are no longer five big families in New York, just four big families, mafia families in New York. And the FBI, there used to be a law enforcement agency, Stephen A. Smith, a mental dwarfism aside, the four mafia families might have had something to do with it. And then they're corrupting the NBA, and apparently a lot of NBA people willingly jumping in with both feet, and that's just fine. The Democrat Party, they're really something, aren't they?
It's as serious as it gets. This ain't the platform for me to get into it the way I'm going to get into it, but I've been saying he's coming. He's coming because in his eyes, folks try to throw him in jail. In his eyes, he's innocent. They try to put him behind bars. I'm getting everybody.
Well, he's right about
not
everything.
playing.
Well, and he's right about both of those things that the dim-witted Mr. Smith talked about there. Isn't that amazing? Just amazing. There are stories all over the place now. The New York Post with Brian Windhorst accused NBA of secretly benching Terry Rozier, the guy who's in bed with the mafia and cheating all over the place, during gambling scandal. Now, you know, Pete Rose, a baseball player, always bet in favor of his team. He did bet, apparently, but he never bet on his team to lose, and he never did anything to facilitate his team losing, but he's denied the Hall of Fame and all that. And these guys are now defending mafia corruption of the NBA, and that's what Stephen A. Smith is doing. He's defending, maybe he's in the back pocket of the mafia. Maybe they got him on the payroll. Maybe they got a video of him with a dead hooker in bed, you know, like that senator in The Godfather, like that. The NBA, here's the story in the New York Post today. The NBA, not a foot injury, allegedly ended Terry Rozier's controversial 22-23 season. ESPN insider Brian Windhorst claimed the NBA knew of the betting irregularities regarding Rozier. March 23rd of 2023 game, while the Hornets against the Hornets, and they pulled him. Wait, what's this? The team pulled it. The NBA knew, and they pulled him because they knew he was gambling with the mafia. Rozier did not play in the Hornets' final 8 games that season after exiting the contest in question, in which the unders on his prop bets cashed due to his exit caused by a supposed right foot injury. So now it's a big conspiracy, and the NBA is involved, and the FBI is involved. But as far as ESPN and Stephen A. Smith concerned, it's all Trump's fault because Trump once owned casinos. Does he still own casinos? Because we had that Democrat self-immolate and blow himself up at the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas after renting an Elon Musk car because the hate cult is also a death cult, and they're a freak show, complete freak show. Just freakies. All right, I've got the latest derangement syndrome in Washington, D.C., and among Democrats is ballroom derangement syndrome, BDS. And I've got the update for you on that coming right up. It came up yesterday at the White House briefing with the wonderful White House press secretary. And a lot of really kind of weirdly behaving news reporters there. You see how they're getting weird. And they're anti-ballroom. But what about the Obama administration? Did they build a ballroom, or did they just spend hundreds of millions on nothing that you can see?
But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Everybody's been embracing themselves because he's coming.
Yeah, what do you hear these reporters at the White House, in the White House briefing room yesterday at the White House briefing, talking to the White House press secretary about ballroom derangement syndrome. How much money did Barack Obama spend renovating the White House? President Trump offered to build the ballroom while Barack Obama was living in the White House. But Barack Obama loves Che Guevara and the Castro brothers. He's a communist, and he doesn't want to improve the White House. And then the Clintons, they looted the White House. But before I get into all that, because I've got good stuff for you on that front, let's go to the telephones once again, and let's talk to Lee, calling from Leesburg, Virginia. No relation. Lee, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris. Good morning. Hey, the Pritzker, the Pritzker over there in Illinois, I think he's more worried about the effect is going to be of law and order showing up in Chicago again. And it's maybe going to make a lot of Chicagoans, probably a lot of black and Hispanic Chicagoans, wonder, what the heck are we voting for these Democrats for? And he might be really worried about them changing their votes. And I think this is a great strategy that I wish more Republicans would follow. If you want to go and get inner city vote, go in and solve the problems. It's poverty and, in some places, but more it's crime. Crime is freaking big deal. And just like he did in D.C., go and do it in Chicago, too. I think it's a great idea.
Well, it is. I certainly hope that the people of Chicago will welcome a reduction in the murder rate. Now, I mean, again, he's bragging like, oh, we've cut murder in half. We've only, had, what was the numbers were completely nuts off the chart when I was rattling them off from the great website that tracks this stuff. But the news media doesn't cover it the way that they should cover it. And, the governor comes out and talks about Alberto Pinochet because he's an ignorant expletive deleted. But now they're proud to say that so far this month they've only had 26 people murdered and 101 wounded. I mean, again, it's like a bad month in Baghdad during the war. So far this year, 312 killed, another 1,352 shot. And he's bragging about those numbers. But you're right, of course. And President Trump fighting crime, most people are against crime. Everybody except for really hardcore criminals are against crime. Most criminals are against crime. They don't want to be victims of crime. They don't want their mothers or their families to be victims of crime. But Democrats, they fight for crime, don't they, Lee?
Yeah, correct. I'll tell you another important point, though. Donald Trump is president of everyone of this country, and he has an obligation to go in and protect the people of this country if they're not being protected. If Chicago police and their politicos cannot protect the people, the citizens of Chicago, hey, you know what? You should go in there and protect them.
Yeah, we should. Political leadership and the government should fight crime, not promote it. But honestly, if you fight crime, the Democrats fight you. It's almost as if the Democrats are crime. The problem is not our guns, it's their sons. Stop shooting people, Democrats. We have a very corrupt news media. And very corrupt Democrats, but I repeat myself. Democrats.org with a lying headline and a lying website with a lying story written by liars that lie all the time. Headline is Leavitt, that would be White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, but they're dismissive and derisive in describing her. Leavitt admits, I love admits, doesn't admit, she said, Trump's, quote, main priority, end quote, is building his $300 million gold ballroom. It's not gold, and it's being paid for with private donations, including by Comcast, which owns NBC News and MSDNC and all of that. But the war room, then they have the war room. Stop shooting people, you little cross-dressers. How about that? But Leavitt admits Trump's main priority is building his $300 million gold ballroom from the war room of the Democratic National Committee. They're starting the Civil War over again, honestly. They're like, we got the jihadis coming out of the Middle East, and we have the left rekindling, reigniting the Civil War, the American Civil War. They're shooting people. They're firebombing. They lie about everything, don't they? But let's go to this because there are There are headlines everywhere lying about misrepresenting, selectively editing what Karoline Leavitt said. But I would just want to play some Q&A. Let's go through in the order that we had discussed, starting with number 10. At the White House press briefing yesterday with Karoline Leavitt, some weird-looking reporters, some with weird things on their heads, and they're just being strange. And they got an English guy who's not even American, and he's English from England or something. And they're so, oh, no, gosh, the White House renovation, there is a ballroom being built onto the White House, and the entire left is just plotzing all over the place. Now, keep in mind, these are the people that are out there tearing down statues of American historical figures, and they're firebombing and burning historic churches, and they're tearing down everything that they can sink their claws into. But never mind that. They don't want a ballroom built on the White House grounds, because then there'd be a ballroom there. And Trump, who's been a builder all his life, he would have built it, and they can't have that. Also, keep in mind, and I had to go do research on this today. Barack Obama spent $376 million on White House renovations while he was in the White House. And they're angry that the new price tag for the ballroom at the White House is going to be $300 million. Now, Barack Obama didn't build anything that you can point to and say, oh, here's what Barack Obama did to improve the White House. And in fact, this money, a lot of it was passed by Congress, authorized by Congress for White House renovations that had been needed for some time because of old electricity and piping and things like that. So it's not like it was a vanity project for Barack Hussein, but amid backlash over Donald Trump's White House project, a viral rumor claimed former President Barack Obama oversaw a $376 million renovation project. Now, this is from a left-wing group, this MEAW or whatever it's called, MEAWW, and they claimed, and it's true, but they said, well, it needs context. You got to provide context. And we have this CNN idiot reporter talking about it, too, but we'll get to that. Let's go to the White House briefing from yesterday and the English person. And they're all very defensive. They've all got ballroom derangement syndrome now.
In July, the White House said that it would cost $200 million. Yesterday, the president said $300 million. Is $300 million now the operative figure? And why did it go up by so much?
Well, because it's a project in Washington involving a government building. And whenever the government says, well, it's going to cost $200 million, then you always know it's going to end up being $600 million because of the way that Washington works. And you ever do a construction project? Just saying. So we got that. And then a person not from England said, why is it $300 million? Because the price went up. Because President Trump offered to build a $100 million ballroom when Barack Obama was living in the house. And I read the stories for you yesterday because the Obama White House scoffed and said, oh, we didn't even consider it, didn't even think about it. Just outrageous. Here's a not English reporter.
Is there like an official name? Like, are we calling it the Trump Ballroom?
Is there an official name, or are we calling it Are we calling it the Trump Ball? We'll call it the Hussein Obama Ballroom, if that'll make you happy. Yeah, mental cases. So is there they're trying to get them, the White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, to say, oh, yes, it's going to be called the Trump Ballroom, so the media can have headlines all over the country. The Trump Ball, it may end up being known as the Trump Ballroom, at least in casual discussion at the White House, but never mind that. And the questions continued at the White House briefing yesterday because of ballroom derangement syndrome, BDS.
In addition to the ballroom and the Rose Garden patio, is the president looking at any other renovations or significant kind of projects here at the White House?
Not to my knowledge, no. But he's a builder at heart, clearly. And so his heart and his mind is always churning about how to improve things here on the White House grounds. But at this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority.
See, in the context of renovations at the White House, the ballroom at this point is the president's main priority. And now there are headlines everywhere Trump doesn't care about the government shutdown. His main priority, and like these Democrat hacks, they put the words main priority in quotation marks, and only the words main priority in quotation marks, and say, oh, the only thing Trump is focused on is the ballroom. But, you know, he is a builder, and it would be appropriate for him to pay attention to it, just by the way. But the headlines now everywhere and the tweets from the Democrats everywhere are all about, in quotation marks, Trump's, quote, main priority. Here's Trump's, quote, most important. And so they're taking fully out of context what Caroline Leavitt said, a great answer, and they're misrepresenting what she said so that they can create the second civil war in the United States of America because of who they are. Now, here is the Barack Obama administration. This is great because they had, who's the silly CNN reporter on the story? They had this lady who was the White House correspondent at the time. Of course, we know it's good old what's her name. But let's go to the 2010 report from the White House. From the White House, when the CNN reporter was walking around the White House showing all the construction going on and the hundreds of millions of dollars being spent by the Obama White House, right? Because that was fine. That was good. That was the best thing for the White House. And when Barack Obama was living there and they were spending $372 million on White House renovations, then White House renovations were very good. Excuse me, it was $376 million. I don't want to shave off the... it was Malveaux, Suzanne Malveaux, who was then, I think, dating the White House press secretary, wasn't she? The lady who was the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. She was dating Karine Jean-Pierre. I think they've since broke up, LGBTQ breakup. But here is CNN and good old, what's her name? The CNN White House reporter cheerfully bounding around the front of the White House, bragging about all the construction going on in the $376 million renovation project that Barack Obama was overseeing.
Sounds like they're building another wing to the White House, but we appreciate you keeping your focus.
You can't even imagine, TJ. It's going to happen for the next 2 years. All of the banging, the jackhammering, the dust, the confusion, the noise of all places to do construction is happening right here, the front lawn of the White House.
It's a 4-year renovation project. Estimated cost, $376 million.
Oh, wait, $376 million, a 3-year renovation project. And what do we have to show for that, Suzanne Malveaux? What kind of improvements were perpetrated by the Obama administration with the $376 million? Well, we're going to have this ballroom that will be an icon in the city of Washington for centuries, literally, to come, unless the Democrats burn it to the ground sooner rather than later. Isn't that amazing? And they don't like a ballroom being built at the White House that will be able to accommodate hundreds of people for balls at the White House. Those are like a gala, like a dinner with dancing and world leaders visiting. And isn't that great that you don't have to go to the Hilton Hotel on Connecticut Avenue to do all that? And, of course, they were fine in 2020. It was, in May and June of 2020 that the Democrats laid siege to the White House for 3 days, set fire to the Church of the Presidents, burned the only building in Lafayette Park, injured 180 police officers, Washington, D.C. police officers, Park police officers, Uniform Division of the Secret Service, violently attacking the White House, forcing the evacuation of the President of the United States and the First Family to the bunker, which is underneath the East Wing, the First Lady's wing. And Suzanne Malveaux was fine with all of that. Just fine. This was no big deal. This wasn't January 6th or anything. This wasn't an insurrection. It was a 3-day siege of the White House. And you remember where Don Lemon used to be a fake reporter back then. Now he's a former fake reporter. Don Lemon was on CNN at that time with Alex Marquardt.
As protesters gathered outside the White House on Friday night in Washington, President Trump was briefly taken to the White House underground bunker for a period of time. Again, that's according to a White House official and a law enforcement source. He was there for a little under an hour before being brought upstairs. Things got a bit serious. He was there for a short time. That is only done when there is a real emergency at the White House, Alex.
So what we're hearing from law enforcement is that the president was taken to an underground bunker at the White House, and that does show that there was a significant fear of the situation that was unfolding out here.
The president of the United States is protected by the Secret Service, and they evacuated him and the first family because their lives were in danger. And I got to tell you, our news media, the most corrupt institution in America. But don't build a ballroom. With private money. And now listen to the communist criminal. Just look at his face. He's got the criminal brow. You know, the science of phrenology, where you look at the lumps and bumps on people's head, and you can tell if they're killers, if they're criminals. Hakeem Jeffries should stay away from phrenologists, but he's got criminal written all over him. And he was on MS-13 yesterday, and he is now threatening people, and he's threatening like Comcast, for example, which Comcast contributed money to the creation of the new ballroom at the White House, and they own NBC and MS-13 NBC and the network that Hakeem Jeffries, the criminal jihadi anti-Semite, was on. Listen, he's promising, he's threatening to punish people for contributing money to a government cause. He wants the government to spend $300 million on the ballroom. He'd like it better that way because he's a communist. Here is the criminal Hakeem Jeffries.
Running the largest pay-to-play scheme in the history of the country, and probably soliciting donations from people who've got business before the United States government. And all of this is going to have to be investigated. It will. All of this will have to be uncovered. It will. And these people are going to be held accountable. No matter how long it takes.
They're going to be held accountable. He's going after Comcast because they own the Philadelphia Flyers. Maybe they're gambling with the mafia or something like that. They own MSNBC. They own NBC. They own an awful lot of things. These people, and he's threatening to abuse his government power to target people that contributed money to a government project. And they own NBC Universal. They own everything NBC. And he's threatening them like a third world gangster because that's what Democrats do. Isn't that amazing? Man, oh, man. Former Republican congressman and congressman, is he transgender? And now a lefty podcaster named Joe Walsh, not the musician, with the good music. My Maserati does 185. I lost my license. Now I don't drive. On the ballroom, and we had to bleep out a bit of cursing. But this is now lefty podcaster Joe Walsh on the terror of the ballroom. It's a ballroom derangement syndrome.
Trump said, I'm going to do it. I want my ballroom. If Trump next week began demolition on the Washington Monument to make it more of a Mar-a-Lago looking thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Would Republicans stand up and say anything?
Would you pull your head out of your rectum? I'm just curious because rectum head syndrome is yours, stupid boy. These guys, I'm telling you. Democrats, there's something terribly wrong with them. We should send them to war against the jihadis, except they'd join them. Wow. Did you see Chelsea Clinton yesterday? She emerged from the primordial ooze to complain about the ballroom derangement syndrome. Have they returned all the furniture they stole yet, the Clinton cabal? We've got that coming up. And it's Friday. A week from today is Halloween. It's Halloween a week from today. What are you going to do about that?
Do you think it's legal, what they're doing?
It's highly doubtful that it's legal. We haven't been able to find any congressional authority for it or any executive authority.
Well, the president has executive. I don't know if you're familiar with the Constitution, criminal Hakeem Jeffries. It took a little break from firebombing Jews. Yeah, BDS, ballroom derangement syndrome, is very real. The left-wing radicals at Snopes, with their fake fact-check, unraveling claims about $376 million White House renovation under Obama, which did take place, but at Snopes, they want to argue about it and say, well, sure, CNN reported cheerfully and Suzanne Malveaux bounding around the front of the White House about the 3-year project costing $376 million. And they say, yes, but the money was funded by Congress. Yeah, well, Trump is getting it paid for by private interests and not by the taxpayer. And that's bad, you see, when it comes to the people at Snopes, because they're mental. And also, Chelsea Clinton has reemerged. And I'm Chelsea Clinton. This is the headline at USA Today. Trump demolishes a house that isn't his. Well, he's not demolishing the house. He's adding a ballroom worth hundreds of millions of dollars for everyone to use. But that's different. And she wrote all this stupidity about, oh, I lived there, but it wasn't my house. Well, that's true. You were the daughter of Bill Clinton. He was in there bopping the interns in the private office with the cigar box and all that stuff. But no need to get into all that now. And then, Chelsea, since you brought it up, maybe we should talk about the fact that your parents had to return tens of thousands of dollars worth of furniture and household goods that they had stolen in a moving van. And they were caught and had to return the stuff that they had stolen years later. Former President Clinton and his wife, Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton, have sent $28,000 worth of household goods back to Washington after questions arose about whether those items were identified as personal gifts or donations to the White House. They stole, and then the number turned out to be much bigger later on. That was the first go-round. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, but ballroom derangement syndrome. We can add it to the list of Democrat Party mental illnesses. TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Now, BDS is not just boycott, divest, and sanction Israel, but it's ballroom derangement syndrome.